Hello single viewer, I'm back with another stream. My name is Sonja Geracsek. I'm a motion designer and animation tutor. In my last stream, I've gone through what I do when I record an online class. The first step is to clean up the audio in Adobe Audition. I've done that. I've finished that entire step. And today I'm going to move on to the video editing in Premiere Pro. So I've already taken all of my audio into Premiere Pro and all of my recorded video, and I've synced it all up. This is the first composition. I have the audio from the video file in here, as well as the cleaned up audio that I exported from Audition. I could have probably used Dynamic Link to get the audio over from Audition, but I find it a little bit easier to handle to have just the single clean audio file, and I'm not messing with another software where it needs to link up with something else. I'm scratching my nose quite a bit because I have allergies and it's the season for that. So don't mind me when I do that. Okay, so this is the first lesson where I basically set up the class, and I'm going to have to turn on the audio through the speakers so I can hear them. Let's see if I can hear this now, if I play this back. For a little bit of background, Great. So I can hear this, and I can zoom in by holding the scroll wheel and Alt and the scroll wheel. And I want my audio, I have this marker here already set up for After Effects. That's the last stage of the editing process. After I've edited the video tracks, I then bring it into After Effects and put graphics on top. I like to do my final editing in After Effects. That's my native software. So you can also create the graphics and bring them into Premiere Pro from After Effects via Dynamic Link, but I prefer doing it the other way. I prefer finishing everything up in After Effects, also via Dynamic Link, so I don't export anything from Premiere. I send it over to After Effects and it's a live link, which means if I decide to make changes in Premiere Pro later on in some of the cuts, maybe I overlooked something in the first pass, and when I'm working on them in After Effects, I can make some final adjustments. So I can always hop over to Premiere and make those adjustments, and they will update in After Effects. That works really well for me. So this is my workflow, and basically I have a transition, a lesson screen that comes up in the first 20 seconds or so, 20 frames, 25 frames, so 1 second, and then I have a transition, and at this point is when the actual audio starts, so that's when I want my audio, that's where the lesson starts, and that's where I want my audio to start. I see that a lot of people are joining me on Instagram Live. Very happy about you joining me. If you would like to see the full stream, I'll just repeat again. You can go to twitch.tv/Sonja Geracsek. That's my full name, just like the way you see it written on Instagram. And if you would like to see the full stream afterwards, you can join me on YouTube. Just search for my name, Sonja Geracsek, and you can then watch the replay there. Okay, I have a few people here, but no, I do not want to boost my followers. Thank you very much. If you would like to interact with me on Twitch, I would be very happy to see that, but let's stick to the general rules of being respectful to each other and not advertising oneself in the chat. Thank you very much. Okay, So let's jump right in. What I do is basically I play back the track and I make cuts in between. Sometimes the way I speak, I make long pauses if I have to think about what I want to say. Sometimes I make mistakes while I'm speaking. So I want to remove those from the audio and sync the video up in such a way that you can't see the cut. So it's either I'll add a stop frame when I'm speaking, when the mouse is not moving, or I hide the cut in some way or another so that the video flows and the lesson flows a little bit faster than if you were to hear me talk like I'm talking on the stream. I make mistakes, I correct myself, sometimes I have to think about what I want to say. So the lessons I want them to be a little bit more easy flowing and straightforward so that you don't lose track when you're taking them as a student. So let's look at what I'm talking here. I create a lot of motion graphics templates, or MOGURTs as they are also called, for Adobe stock. So for this class, I will be sticking to most of the required guides and standards for these templates stipulated exactly by Adobe. These are not always necessary, and maybe every time I click somewhere else outside of Premiere Pro, I can't hit the spacebar to pause this. It's a little bit annoying. So at this point, there is no movement. In the video, the player head moves, but I don't think it's that bad. What I do is I highlight, I hit Control K to cut, then I go to the next point where I want to cut, and I want to cut out this break. And I'll just cut that out. And then I watch it back to make sure that the cut is not too obvious. Because there was a little bit of movement where the red line of the player head is moving, but I think it's not so bad. So let's see. Guides and standards for these templates are stipulated by Adobe. These are not always necessary. Yeah, it just looks like it's moving, it jumps forward a little bit. So those kinds of jump cuts don't bother me as much. So I carry on. And also, if you are editing in Premiere and you don't want to play back in real time, you can hit L. These are not always necessary, and the more you hit L, the faster the playback gets, which is kind of nice if you want to play back, if you have a lot of footage and you need to get through it faster. But I find that I want to cut out so many things in such a short time span that going back and forth between real-time playback and fast playback is not worth it. I keep having to go back every time I play fast playback. So most of the time I do edit in real time, which means the length of time it took me to record that class is also the length of time it's going to take me to edit the class. So if you have a better workflow, please send me a message in the comments, or if you're on stream, send me a message in the chat. I would really appreciate that. But apart from playing back the video faster, I don't know how I would edit this faster. There's a similar thing you can do in Adobe, in Audition, the audio editing software. You can also play back your audio faster, but it doesn't change the pitch, so you can squash and stretch your audio to either be longer or shorter. And so in hours, this is really good for a podcast. When I was editing the Striving Artist podcast, I would squish it to 50% playback length, and then an hour's podcast would only take me 30 minutes to go through, plus some editing time. So that's really useful, but I actually didn't find it that useful in the video editing process. But anyway, let's try and go through a little bit of editing here. These are not always necessary, and maybe for your project they're a little bit too strict or don't apply, but just so you know. So also, I don't like when you can hear like little clicking or breathing sounds. I mean, breathing is not so bad. Breathing is human. There's like this weird little click. I don't know if you see that here in the track. I don't like those sounds, so I try to cut them out as well. But just sometimes I go back into the audio, so what I can do here, I can right click and I can go to edit original. And it will then ask me if I want to edit the multi-track session, which I exported it from, or if I want to edit the waveform. And I need to change the view for... give me just a second. Just gonna change the view for the Twitch stream. So, yeah, basically, I want to edit the waveform because I don't want to export this file again because I haven't used the dynamic link between Adobe Audition and Premiere. I've actually exported a new file. This file is made for making changes. This is no longer the original recorded file. I always make sure not to overwrite or make any changes to the original file in case I want to return back to the original recording. But in this case, this is already a duplicate, so I can make direct changes to this. And so I just want to go to that time. I think it's here, actually. I can already see. Over time, you'll get used to what the waveform looks like, and then you don't even need to look at the time where exactly something is. You already know. Yes, and Audition always forces the audio to your last setup, and because I was listening through the headphones, it's now stuck to the headphones. I really hate this fiddling around with the hardware settings. I wish it could just recognize what I've set for my computer and don't apply. Anyway, but just yeah, so there's like a weird little click. And what I'm gonna do, I already set up a shortcut for this, and I think it's Control-Shift-Alt-S. Is it Control-Shift-S? Yes, Control-Shift-S. I set a keyframe to silence. Control-Alt-S. Without shift. So this is my shortcut for silencing something. So since I'm not speaking here and there's that weird clicking noise, I'm just going to silence that. I'm going to save this. I don't need to silence the breath because it's pretty natural for a human to breathe while they're talking. So I'm going to jump back to Premiere. And now, because I've saved over that file, that clicking is gone. But just so you know, that's why I'm choosing. Sometimes I even cut out these pauses just so that the speech flows a little bit faster. I mean, I could. I actually don't want to highlight everything. Okay, and if I play that back. But just so you know, that's why I'm choosing. So you can see it's just so you know, that's why I'm choosing. That's now gone. It's just so you know, that's why I'm choosing. It sounds a little bit like it's pushed together, the speech, but I think I still feel like it gives it a little bit more of a flow if I cut out these unnecessary pauses. It's part of my way of speaking, but I think since classes are not streams, you're expecting them to be a little bit more polished than listening to a person speak in a live chat. So, okay. Who else is here on Instagram Live? Yay! Thanks for joining. Okay. Yeah, so basically I'm just gonna continue going through this, and you're gonna have to listen to me talk while I'm talking as well as my recorded version is talking. Yeah, that's my life. That's kind of that's what I have to do. So now we can go through this together, you and me, listening to me for hours. I don't know who likes to listen to themselves talk, but I am exhausted. After the first day of editing, I'm exhausted just listening to myself over and over again. And then by the time I'm finished with the class, I'm like, thank God, this is done. I cannot listen to myself anymore. Okay, let's keep going.
Just so you know, that's why I'm choosing to follow these
M's a big thing. I don't want any M's in my class. Exactly. So since there is no movement, and yeah, so the video is actually not moving. There's no real change in the video. I could just not cut the video at this point, but I like when the audio and video pieces that belong together chronologically stay together. So I always cut the video and the audio at the same time, unless I need to hide a cut. So at this point, yeah, I want to hide this cut. And I think there are other ways to cut video in Premiere as well. I think I can also hit C for knife, no, for cut, and then I can cut, and if I want to hold S, it cuts the whole length. I can do that too. So this way, I don't need to highlight the clips and then cut K, then hit Control K. But with this, I constantly have to switch. If I want to move something, I keep having to switch between V and C. I don't know, I used to cut with the C command. Now I prefer just highlighting and Control K cutting.
Follow these guidelines.
I don't know which workflow is faster. So at this point, I'm going to cut it here as the animation is finished, and then it animates in. So at this point, yeah, that's the problem. Now it animates in again, so now I need to hide this cut somehow. So the video cannot be cut any further than this. So I cut the video here. And I will cut the audio, but I want to cut the pause of the audio. So this is how I do it. I make my initial cuts where I want the audio and the video to end. And then I try and hide this cut somehow. So where can I hide this cut? So there's no movement until about here when the animation goes out again. So I'm going to cut this bit. That means, so I can already move it this far, and then I can move these three this far, and I need a little bit more. So I think I'm just gonna move this into this last video. This is a kind of a still shot as well. So I'm just gonna move it until I hit no gap. And now I have gap, animation out, animation in. But actually, now I heard that there can be a little bit of a break here, a little bit of a pause in speech because I'm saying something new. So I'm just gonna leave a little bit of a longer pause, and then I go.
To follow these guidelines. First, I will.
Yeah, so I like that. There's some of these guidelines, then a little bit of a pause, and then I start with the next sentence. So this is kind of how I hide the audio cuts so that the video doesn't look like it's necessarily cut out of place. And I want to keep the illusion that the video is running without any cuts. So either if I move the mouse in the wrong way, I try to line the mouse up in such a way that it looks that the video is continuous, or I use a still shot like here, and I kind of sequence the cuts in such a way that it looks like it's always continuous. I always want to keep the audio synced up with the video, so from the waveform I can see that the audio of these two is synced up, so if something happens later on, I still know that they align. Okay, so but I think
for a little bit of background,
yeah, at some point I start explaining what I'm going to do. But I think, so sometimes I have sections in my script. I have a script before I record my online classes because I need some structure to know all the steps that I want to include in one lesson and overall in the whole class. And there are certain parts that are maybe complicated to explain, and I don't want to come up with this explanation off the top of my head. I want to make it as clear and concise as possible. So I sometimes write out an entire script that I want to say during the recording, word for word. So these parts I sometimes say first and then act out later. So I think this type of part is coming up now. So now I need to line up the video with with the clicking around. So I'm first speaking and then I will be doing the thing that I'm describing. So I'm going to unsync the video and the audio. So
first, I will create a composition, and if you don't already have a folder for your compositions, I would also recommend you create one where all of your comps and pre-comps will live.
Okay, so that's what I want to do. So now I'm going to search for the time in the video where I'm actually doing this, where I'm creating this composition. So this part is actually quite long, and I think, yeah, so I always have these like really long empty parts. That's usually when I'm acting out what I'm saying. So I'm going to go to the first motion of the mouse. I'm going to cut it here. And I'm going to go to here. This is probably the end of the animation on screen. So I'm going to cut that. And then I'm going to shift delete. That's a ripple delete, but it can only delete so far. So I'm going to move this along. And let's see if this lines up. But actually, I probably want this to happen at the start of this audio. So I'm probably going to just shift these along. Yeah, I'm going to shift these clips along even further until they reach, until these two are parallel again. So let's have a look at that.
So you know, that's why I'm choosing.
And so sometimes when I've made these cuts, I realize, okay, I mean, I've shifted these along. These two are pretty much the same. So I'm just going to take this one out. I'm going to make this one, just so I don't have so many tiny clips. So first I do the cuts, and then basically afterwards I go in and clean up the cuts a little bit further. So that's usually my workflow.
But just so you know, that's why I'm choosing to follow these guidelines. First, I will create a composition, and if you don't already have a folder for your compositions, I would also recommend you create one where all of your comps and pre-comps will live. My comp is set to HDTV 1080-25. That's a preset you can find in the composition settings menu.
So this part where I'm taking a breath.
And that means menu. That means
I think I want to cut this one out because I think my mouse moving at this point? It is not. So I want to make a cut here. I want to take the breath out, and I also want to take out the So I'm going to cut this. And this cut is really tight, so I'm going from one sentence to the next sentence without a break. So I definitely need to check if this cut works.
25. That's a preset you can find in the composition settings menu. That means...
Yeah, that's way too harsh of a cut. So I'm going to have to play around with this. So basically, I don't want the cut to start... I need a little bit of a break, but there was like a really strange breath here. So let's see if I can just keep this much of a break.
That means...
Yeah, that sounds a little bit more natural.
Menu. That means my composition is 1920 by 1080 pixels with square pixel aspect ratio and a frame rate of 25 frames per second. If you have watched my previous classes, you might remember that I usually animate at 60
So I just realized that actually I'm showing what I'm talking about a little bit later. So I think I need to push this video down a little bit further even. So these two don't line up. Okay, so let's see.
Where all of your comps come with. My comp is
so it's actually, it starts here. So I need way more. Yeah, I'm just gonna push this down, and I want this this talk about the composition to start here. So I'm hoping that if I extend this, okay, that doesn't work. All right, I'm gonna have to take this out. I'm gonna extend this. No. All right, I'm gonna have to add a. So this one animates out. Yeah, I'm gonna have to add a stop frame. A hold frame, sorry. So I'm going to add a hold frame here so it doesn't continue animating in and out and keep jumping. Yeah, so it's so short that it doesn't matter that it doesn't animate in immediately. So let's have a look at that again.
Composition settings menu. That means my composition is 1920 by 1080 pixels with square pixels.
Okay, a little bit further. Just a little bit further. And that means this needs to be a little bit longer. So let's see.
Follow these guidelines. First, I will create a composition, and if you don't already have a folder for your compositions, I would also recommend you create one where all of your comps and...
I actually think later on I show how to create a folder. Not that it's something hugely difficult that needs to be shown, but I do like showing everything that I'm talking about in a class, and I show it later on, and maybe I'll grab that piece of video and drag it into here. Let's see how it works. For now, I want to line up my talk.
Is set to HDTV 1080-25. That's a preset you can find in the composition settings menu. That means my composition is 1920 by 1080 pixels with square pixel aspect ratio and a frame rate of 25 frames per second. If you have watched my previous classes, you might remember that I usually animate at 60 frames.
Okay, so here I start talking about the frame rate. So actually,
that means my position is 1920 by 1080 pixels with pixels.
And I think I want a hold frame here just because I will be talking a little longer about the frame rates. So, and I also don't want these to be linked anymore. So I'm going to unlink this so that I can stretch this clip and add a hold frame here. I'm going to hide this. It's already hidden. Okay.
With square pixel aspect ratio and a frame rate.
Okay, and here I start talking about the frame rate, which is the next clip. So I'll bring that one back in. Which means this one needs to scooch along a little bit. Okay.
Pixels with square pixel aspect ratio and a frame rate of 25 frames per second. If you have watched my previous classes, you might remember that I usually animate at 60 frames per second. But for the purpose of creating a near standard template, I will use a more common frame rate like 25 frames per second. This is a frame rate.
Okay, so now I keep talking about the frame rate. So I think I'm going to pause the video here again.
Don't render. I stick to 25 frames.
Still talking about it.
Now I will also set the time code, the start time code.
So here is when I start talking about the start time code, and that's actually where this clip continues. So I'm going to hold here. So I need to cut this. No, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to add a hold frame. I'm going to stretch this hold frame at some point, but this actually, I need to have this start around here when this mouse starts moving again. So I want this to be here. I want this to go until here. But actually, I want to cut this gap a little bit, or at least this weird mouth sound here, which I don't like. So I'm going to line these two up. I'm going to cut this out, leave a little bit of a pause for my speech, like that. Going to line those up, and I'm going to ripple delete the gap.
60 frames per second can render a heavy file. Now I will also set the time code, the start time code to...
And sometimes when I correct myself while I'm talking, I like to take those parts out as well. So I might do that. So I'm saying the time code, the start time code, so I think I'll just take out the first part of saying that.
Now I will also set the time code, we'll also set the
time code.
The start.
No, I have to take the out as well.
I will also set the...
Okay, so here. And then I will cut it.
Time code.
And now I need to fix the video to match.
Now I will also set the start time code to 0 and not my...
That actually works because I'm deleting the 59 as I'm saying it, so I might have to resync the time later on. So for now, this works. I'm going to save my file in the meantime. Who's joining on Instagram Live? Hello everyone who's joining on Instagram Live. Okay.
Now I will also set the start time code to 0 and not my usual 59 minutes. The duration will be 8 seconds and 1 frame.
Exactly. And then I need to sync this up. This is where I actually write the 1 frame. Okay, that's the end of this. And at some point I start talking again, and I start moving the mouse again, which is at this point. So I'm just going to cut here. And the audio I want to cut here. This is where I'm starting to speak again. So now I want to line these two up. So I want this audio to be lined up with this video track to be lined up with this audio track. So what I can do here is, I think I stop typing at this point, and then I don't type for a while, and then I start typing here again. So I can definitely take this part out to...
1 frame. So the reason why I'm saying the duration at 8 seconds is minimum amount of title motion graphics template.
I go back. So actually, I want to cut this out where I'm going back to the time. I'm going to cut this again. So, okay, let's see. I want to cut this one out because then I go back to the number and I'm just gonna... Yeah, I'm gonna take this part. So let's see. Now the mouse movements line up. I highlight the number and then I click OK. So I think I like it like that.
Setting the duration at 8 seconds is that's the minimum amount a title motion graphics template can be on Adobe Stock. And the additional frame I'm adding is because if I create this composition and I go to 8 seconds, I can see it's 8 seconds long because that last frame is actually the frame of the 8th second. So if I was to set this to just 8 seconds without that additional frame, I would then be at 7 minutes and 24 frames, and I don't like that.
Okay, I think it's now lined up well enough, and now I would generally go through and get rid of ums and ahs and so on. But I think watching me edit this video without any feedback might be a little bit boring for the stream. So I think what I can do is I'm going to open up After Effects and I'm going to show you some of the other steps that I need to take to finish an online class. So I'm going to move on from editing because to really speed up my workflow and edit this, I need to be quiet and listen to myself talk and cut out all of the mistakes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into After Effects and I'm just going to set this up for a second. There we go. Oh, what's happening here? Why is this window so small? There we go. Okay. Right, so we have After Effects open. I want to open a recent file. No, it's not recent. Okay, I'm gonna have to open, it's this one. I need to create a new version of my file. I'll be right back on screen as soon as I have this ready. It's the 18th. Okay, I'm going to open, oh, damn it, stop resizing After Effects. Didn't tell you to do that, did I? Oh, After Effects, always causing trouble. Wow, it's taking a really long time opening this file. It's telling me 2 minutes. That's not good. Oh, okay, it's opening. It's opening. All right. So one admin thing that I need to do in After Effects before I even start doing any editing or animating is bring in the names of so this is my previous class, and I always make sure that I bring in the names of the potential class, the potential lesson names. So I also make sure that I rename this to class 7 just so I know I'm in the right project. I'm gonna save it, and here are my assets. So I import, this is the Premiere Pro import. And I'm actually going to delete all of these because these are from the last import, and I'm going to go to File, Dynamic Link, and Import Premiere Pro Sequence. And now I have to click through my entire library to find this, which is a little annoying, I have to admit. But here, class, project files, come on, Premiere. Now After Effects or Dynamic Link is going to search for the sequence, which always takes a little bit of time. and I have all of the lessons here. I'm going to highlight all of them and I'm going to click OK. And it's going to import all of the lessons, and I don't like how long this naming is, so I'm going to take out the file reference naming, and I'm only going to name it after the sequences, because then I can copy paste these names to the composition naming in After Effects. I have a composition for each of the lessons where I put the Premiere Pro sequences in, and I add the class title, and I add any other text bars or any additional graphics. So these are all of my scenes. And now I need to do a little bit of admin. So I always have an intro for each class. It's always called intro. I always have a class project lesson, which is always called class project. And then the first class, for the first actual lesson, is the third video in each class. And that's this one. And this one's called Setting Up Comp. The second one is called this, and this might change in the course of creating the class. As I go through editing the video, I might realize that one of these classes is way too long, and I'm going to have to cut it down and make 2 lessons out of it. This is why some of these lessons are 4 and then 4-1, because I made 2 lessons out of what I recorded as lesson 4. So this might happen sometimes. And I lost track of what I was doing. Yeah, so that happens sometimes, and actually I don't think I'm going to... yeah, I'll keep it, whatever. And then this needs to be 5. Whoops. No, 50. And then the next one is going to be 60. Oh, it's going to get complicated. So each one of these comps, just so you understand what this is here, basically this is the 4th scene, and the 040 is the VFX naming standard. Well, assumingly the VFX naming standard I learned to use that allows me to slip in these scenes that then follow this sequencing. And the first 0 is obviously for the ones, so everything that goes after 10, that's the first 0, and the last 0 is if I want to slip in a scene between 5 and 6 for in this case. But because now I have a bunch of these, I might just delete them, because what happens now is this scene has this chapter composition in, and the chapter composition is the lesson outline, essentially. It tells the student what they're going to be learning in this particular lesson, and it animates in. It looks like this. I'm too far zoomed out. Let's go to the beginning. And yeah, it animates in like this. And I like to have this as a singular composition on top of all the other video and the transition stuff, because it transitions out like this. And here would be then the Premiere Pro video lesson and the video edit. So basically, now I need to find out which one is this one. I need to reveal layer in project, and it's this one, which means this one should belong to this one. So I'm just gonna get rid of these because it's too complicated with the double compositions. I'm just going to rename the subsequent ones and create duplicates for the ones that don't exist. So right now, the last lesson was up to 8 lessons. The last class was up to 8 lessons, and this one has 12 lessons. So I'm just going to add new compositions instead of renaming the additional ones, because then I'm going to lose track of which chapter composition belongs to which scene composition. Okay, so making frame responsive, we've got that. Then the next one is this one. And so if you don't know how you rename something in After Effects, I'm literally just highlighting this composition. I'm hitting enter and I'm pasting what I just copied from up at the top. And that's how you can rename almost any object in After Effects. It can be a layer. I can hit enter here. I can rename this. I can go into a... Oh, is this not... What is this? Is this a solid? I guess this is a solid. But if I was to create... Is this really a solid? I don't work with solids anymore, so this is a very old file I've been using for a really long time. I now use shape layers as background. So now if I go in here, I can rename this rectangle group. I can rename this rectangle path. I can even rename the stroke if I want to. Can I rename this? No, I can't. But any attribute that you can add to a layer, generally you can rename it by hitting enter while it's highlighted. So that's a pretty cool thing to know if you did not know that, because many things, especially, I'll just bring back this shape layer. So this, I think, yeah, here you can rename it by right-clicking, but I don't know if you can do that. You cannot do that by right-clicking on this rectangle group. So yeah, that's a good thing to know if you are not familiar how to rename something in After Effects. That's how that works. Okay, fixing anchor points, 6. Now, I think I copied this already, but let's make sure. Then we have 8. And now I need new numbers. So I already know that my outro is 13, so I'm going to name it that. And then I'm going to keep doing this. Now I'm going to duplicate this. I'm just going to rename that to this. And now I have to duplicate this. And then I'm going to have to replace it in that comp. Because even though I named them the same, that doesn't mean anything. I need to go in here and replace the actual file, the actual layer. So this composition, as you can see, is a 070A. And to replace it to be this one without changing any properties here, any positioning, any sizing, anything, I highlight this layer, I grab this and I hold Alt and I just drag it over this layer and it just gets replaced, and everything, every changes, all the attributes that it already had were just were kept, and it was just the comp link that was replaced. And I'm going to continue doing that with all the rest of my comps that I have here. So normally I don't go to this step until I'm really completely finished with editing the video. I'm just going in here to show you what really the next steps are, for you to have an idea how my workflow works. But yeah, the reason I don't jump into this step until I have done or I have finished with the Premiere Pro edits is basically so that, I mean, I like having one step of the entire workflow finished before I move on to the next step in the pipeline. And also it gives me overview, it gives me understanding that, yes, okay, I don't need to remember to go back to this before I move on. And also, once I import these, so this is 9, once I import this, for instance, it gives me all of the markers that Okay, hang on. So this needs to start here, and as you can see, this is the actual start of the class, and this is the start of the voice. So that's exactly what I want. And it also adds the marker. So this marker, for instance, because I haven't done the edit yet, the marker is at a random place, the end marker, and I might add other markers to this once I am done editing with this. I can go right click and update markers from source, and then it will take the markers from Premiere and add them to this, so I can do that. It's not a problem. It's just sometimes it's just annoying, or I don't want to do that. I just want to do one bit by bit. But yeah, just so you know what my workflow looks like, I'm just introducing you to the different steps of my workflow. So I'm just going to continue doing this until I'm done, and then I can probably show you a little bit of something else that I need to do. Oh, wait. I think I renamed the wrong layer. Yes, I did. Okay, I want to rename this one. And I want to duplicate this one. Yeah. So it's a multi-stage process to create a motion graphics class, an animation class, if you want to call it animation. It's yeah, different. That's a funny thing about animation. There are so many different opinions of what animation is. There are people who think cartoons are animation, you know, cartoons like Bugs Bunny, Warner Bros. Cartoons, basically. I mean, it is animation. And everything that moves and was drawn by hand or graphics is animation, and that's usually mostly how I use it if I'm speaking very generally. But animation can also be seen, be understood as only what cartoons and Disney animation is. I've had this experience that many people, when I say I animate or I'm an animator, people immediately jump to, oh, cartoons, like what kids watch on TV. I'm like, no, not exactly. So there are different perceptions of what animation means depending on, I guess, your professional background, how much experience you have with the creative and the design industry. So it's really interesting. And I very rarely use the term I'm a motion designer if I'm speaking to somebody who's not at all affiliated with the creative industry at all, because it's such a specific term that many people don't understand, and many people can grasp the word animator or animation much more easier than a motion designer. Even for the longest time, for probably the first 5 years of my career, I've been doing this for more than 10 years now. For the first 5 years of my career, even within the creative industry, I've been asked what design, and I'm like, motion design or motion graphics, what is that? I'm like, well, it's like graphic design, but it moves, what you see on TV, like between the end of the TV show and the ad, or like if a channel has like kind of like a logo reveal or like a branding that's like animated or moving, that's motion design. It was an interesting time where people didn't really know what that was. Even graphic designers were struggling with that term. So I choose my terminology according to what I believe the person I'm speaking to might be able to relate to. So yeah, just a little bit of lamentation on the term of animation and motion graphics. I don't know if you had this experience before, if this is something if this is a conversation you might have had with somebody, but I find it very interesting that the perception of the word animation differs so much depending on who you talk to, what your life and professional background is. Very interesting. Okay, so I'm almost done renaming all of my files. This is the last one. Cool. Now I am theoretically ready to animate stuff, but of course I'm not animating stuff yet. Also don't need the essential graphics panel. I'm going to save this. And once I am ready to animate, the first thing that I do is not work on the classes, but work on the launch materials. So the promo video, I don't change this anymore. I change this every few months when I need to update some information, the audio, whatever. It's the promo about, just in general, about me and the type of classes that I do. But what I do create is a coming soon trailer. It's like a teaser trailer of my class. And for this, I generally, I finish the intro first. So I create the introduction of the first class, and it will show you what you'll learn in this class and the type of techniques that you will be going through. And I take that intro and I make a very short teaser out of it with this coming soon banner at the top. And who else has joined me on IGTV, IG Live? Hello, everyone. And out of that, I usually also create a thumbnail. I try to create an animated thumbnail every time. For the reasons that I can share it on Twitter and Dribbble, social media in general that takes GIFs or videos. Instagram takes videos, actually, not GIFs, for those of you who are not aware what you're posting or what is possible to post on Instagram. And basically, I try to create animated thumbnails that also work as a static, so that I can have a static thumbnail for all the videos in the YouTube and everywhere I upload my class, but then also have this animated version that I can then tease in my Instagram feed. So that would be the next thing I do. After that, I also want to create a IG story of this that would have the animated thumbnail, and it would tell you, oh, the class is available, this is for launch. Then I also have an IGTV version of the intro, so it basically has the video in the center, and just so it creates a nice preview for the Instagram feed. I keep the size of the video, but I create a 9:16 render so I can share it on the story, and it can then also go in my IGTV section of my Instagram profile. And then I basically have I think here I animated myself. So that's what I created for last class, basically. And that's the next thing I would jump to once I have my videos cut. I'm going to take a very short break and I will be right back. And we are back. Okay, so basically what I usually do, rearrange myself. What I do once I have edited everything, edited my videos, that is, like I mentioned, I go back in here and I start editing the intro. So the intro has multiple parts. First of all, I need to import the audio files that are not already part of the videos. There's a few files that intro, class project, and outro are always new files that don't have a video associated with them. That's a video I create out of all of the other recordings that I have. So, I want to go to replace footage, and I want to find the new intro, which is in my audio folder, which I need to navigate to. Unfortunately, you cannot see this on screen, but I am almost done. Oh, this one has a weird dash in the name. Okay, so I'm going to replace this, and I'm going to replace, I can only replace one at a time. So I'm going to replace this one now. Just give me a second. Almost there. And then I want to replace this one. Okay, cool. So now in here, I'm also going to update. Yep, cool. So now I want to adjust. I have a generic intro sequence that happens every time. And then I talk about the class. So first, I just talk about myself, for anybody who's never taken my class before and who needs a little bit of an introduction about me. So I talk about that, which is, I think I need to change the audio inside After Effects as well for it to play. Or, yeah, it's playing through my headphones. So I need to go into presets, audio hardware. Come on, After Effects, why you do this to me all the time? And the annoying thing is, it even says it's already said. Oh no, it wasn't set to the speakers. Okay, sometimes it's set to the speakers already, and it still doesn't play out the speakers. Okay, there we go. Okay, this class is what exactly?
This class is part of a 3-part series on motion graphics templates.
Oh, that song is a little loud, isn't it? Why is it so loud? Have I always had it this loud? No, it's at 15. But it seems very loud.
This class is part of a 3-part series.
Okay, so basically it starts with this. It's a 3-part series, and actually I'm gonna have to. So for my last class, it was also a 3-part series, and what I did, I created thumbnails, animated thumbnails, that I would use for each class. So I want to do the same thing for this, and I want to create an animated thumbnails that will work for all 3 of these classes. And so I need to think about how I'm going to do that, basically. But what I already know is that I can take... No, I don't want to take these out, actually. I want to replace them. Once I'm ready to do this part, I can replace it. But actually, I can add a proxy here. Let's see. Where is the movement? Where are the keyframes? Where are the keyframes? Okay, so what I'm going to do is... This is this big. I'm just going to replace it with, oh, whoa, no, I don't want to create a mask. I'm going to replace it with just shape layers. Actually, I can just duplicate the background. Because Oh, maybe I cannot use shape layers. I need to use a video or something. Yeah, okay, I'll use these, the videos from last time. Basically, I want to keep the keyframes, but I want to be able to manipulate this. Okay, that's terrible. Okay, doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. Is the scale changing? Yes. Okay, doesn't matter. Basically, I want to remove this because this is from the last class, but I want to keep the keyframes because I will be animating it the same way, but I don't want the composition to be so heavy anymore, so I'm just going to delete this out, and I'm going to close everything else that I don't need right now. I don't need anything, actually. And this is one of the other problems. I now have to be super careful and give After Effects time to close all of these compositions. I'm hitting Control W in case you don't know how to close compositions with a keyframe shortcut. But it's so annoying because if I do it way too fast, then After Effects just zaps out and crashes. It's so annoying. I don't know why it keeps doing that. So, anyway. So I haven't really come up with a concrete idea of, okay, so my next class is going to be based on motion graphics templates, and it's a 3-part series because it's a title, a subtitle, a title, a lower third, and a background and transition, and they all work together. They're all part of the same design, and I will be teaching more in each class that you can then take and apply to the classes previous to that. So it's not necessarily just, okay, this is a title and now we're going to do the same thing for a lower third. No, I'm going to give you more information that you can then take and also apply to the previous class, the project from the previous class that you've created. And in the end, you're going to come up with a very rich, very rounded set of transitions and basically templates that you can use for your videos or in Premiere Pro and so on. And so I already have a look in mind because it's the most recent motion graphics template that I've created that you can actually get on my website. If you go to templates.sonjageracek.me, let me show that on screen while we are doing that. And the Chrome window is too big and now it's too small. Okay. So basically, it's this template series that I've created, and I want the look of the class to be this, basically. And so I know approximately what the thumbnails are going to be, and I'm going to make the colors a little bit varied between the lower thirds. So now you can see the lower thirds playing between the lower thirds and the titles. But it's not going to be crazy different because they're part of a series, so I want them to look cohesive. And where was I going with this? Basically the idea is, yeah, that I'm going to create these also this is the transition, and the background loops are gonna come up in just a minute. But basically, yeah, these are this is the look I'm going for. So I know that this is what I'm going for, but I don't know exactly how I'm going to put together the intro sequence. So, and also I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to call the classes yet. So this is why I also don't jump into animating the class before I have finished editing all of the video, because that gives me time to really think about these details and come up with a cohesive design. But yeah, certain parts of this are already standing. Like this is the class project, and I already have the text for this, so I just need to grab the text from my document and put it here. Things that you'll be learning. This you obviously won't see. This is Here I will probably use what you just saw, the animation of the motion graphics template. And yeah, here in these black parts, that's where the video is missing, the Premiere Pro footage. So I haven't imported it yet. I mean, I have imported it, but I haven't put it in here. And that's essentially the next step. I would go in and piece by piece, I would add all of these. So also in the intro, and piece by piece, I would replace, this would always stay the same. I've already created a template of this, that the entire thing can stay in the beginning. And then this would have the three classes, the thumbnails of the classes, and then I go into detail of explaining what you'll be learning in the class. Actually, isn't this... yeah, no, this is the... Okay. Trilogy. Assets. I feel like there's something missing here. Wait.
Series, or just take each class on its own. I will be providing assets for each class as necessary.
Yes, okay, so at this point, I talk about... Yeah, here I talk about that I provide us assets and you can get them in the project gallery where you can also post your projects. So I talk about... this part is Skillshare specific, but I don't talk about Skillshare in particular because I do just distribute classes to other platforms. So I try to keep it as platform neutral as possible, so I can deliver this class to wherever my students are, wherever they prefer to watch this class and enroll in this class. So it's not necessary to have a Skillshare subscription to get this class, but you do get 2 months free Skillshare if you get the class with my link, which you can find on the website, on my website. If you go to sonjageracsek.me, there is a tab for online classes, and if you click on the subscription, you can... If you haven't had a Skillshare membership before or a Skillshare account before, then you can get 2 months free there if you would like to take one of my previous classes. But yeah, you can also just buy them one-off on Udemy. I think I also have them on Skill Success and CG Circuit. So if you prefer those platforms, that's also a possibility. Yeah, and so this portion here, I would be talking about what the class is about. And for that, I would take... certain parts of the screencast that's already edited essentially, and I would place them in here and put together a kind of show reel of the class, an introduction of what you'll be learning. And then this very last part tells you what you can expect, or if, depending on what your learning status is when it comes to animation / After Effects, if this class is for you. So I think I'm going to set this class as an intermediate class, just because there is a lot of expression talk in this class. We will be writing expressions and understanding what variables are, how to link sliders to each other, how to link the size property of a shape layer to sliders, and then have those sliders read the size of another text layer. So it's a little complicated, and I think for somebody who's never opened After Effects, it'll be a little bit too advanced. I don't think it's an advanced class. I'm going to have to see from the feedback of the students if they think it's too advanced. But usually when I do a lot of expression classes because I like expressions. I think they're a really functional way to create an efficient workflow. When I create expression classes, most students will say it's perfect for intermediate learners. So I think none of my classes have yet, apart from the ones that I did for Kurz gesagt, there was one that was advanced. But apart from those, most of my classes fit within beginner and intermediate classes and are for these types of learners. And yeah, basically it's a little text slide animation and then kind of a conclusion of what you get out of the class. And this is all pre-animated already. All I do is I go in and I change the text basically. And I don't need to change anything else. And yeah, that is basically it. That I have this, and then I have this little outro sequence. And the reason why the spacing is a little bit funny here, if you think it's a little strange, it's because I post this intro on YouTube as well. And so on YouTube I can use this Sonja face to put my subscribe button, and I think in this space I put a like watch my other videos button, like it's this end screen that you can add on YouTube. And I guess I could design this slightly differently, that there's a frame here and the frame says something, so it doesn't just have this weird empty space. But I don't know if that would help, because on Skillshare, this is going up on Skillshare as well, and then I would just have a frame with text inside of it and nothing else. I think it makes more sense to just leave the space empty and add the end screen button here on YouTube. And yeah, I made all of these like end screens as efficient as possible. Like this, for instance, it's already a template, and I can, what have I done with this? Yes, right. So there's a drop down menu here, and I can change this from intro, outro, promo. So this is the promo screen. This is the outro screen, because this doesn't go on YouTube. It's only got this. So yeah, so I can switch this one composition to these three layouts, and what I've done for that is I just have a bunch of social media things, and they change position depending on what this subtitle menu says. So if I show you, here's the position expression. So basically it's a conditional statement, and I define a bunch of variables and also the drop down menu, and then I say, okay, if it's right aligned, then it has these values, left aligned, center aligned, these values. And then if I say, if it is set to this drop down setting, then use these values. And yeah, that's that's the conditional statement I've written to create this drop down, so that everything repositions to where I want it to be for each different setup. I'm very proud of this end screen. I'm actually thinking of creating a class out of this as well. I don't know if people are interested. I've actually asked on Instagram if people would be interested in this, and they said they would not. So I don't know if this is something people want to know, but actually I did a lot of research to figure out how to even place these so that they would work in the YouTube layout. So that in itself is worth being taught, because I couldn't find a lot of information on how this works. I had to figure it out myself. So I think this might be interesting for somebody, but maybe not for everybody, and I think that's fine. Not everything has to appeal to everyone. But yeah, I think with that and a dry throat, I will leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed today's stream. I think I'm a little out of focus. Is that possible? I'm so blurry. I can't tell. Am I blurry? I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's the end of the stream. So, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I definitely enjoyed myself showing you how I do things, how I animate, how I edit. how I create my classes. I love teaching. I love explaining complex subjects to people. And if you're somebody who likes learning, then I invite you to take one of my online classes. You can find them under classes.sonjageracek.me, or just go to my website, sonjageracek.me. You can find me on most social media via my full name, Sonjageracsek, Sonja Geracsek. And yeah, actually, why don't I put that on screen just now? And basically, yeah. Feel free to... That's my URL. You can either go to http or www. And yeah, join me. Join me in my classes. Join me on YouTube. Feel free to learn from me. Oh, that's a little... There we go. Where can you see this best? Nowhere. Okay. Anyway, this is my website. You can find all information about me there. Yeah, you can find my classes there. You can find my social media there. You can find everything about me there in a professional capacity. And yeah, feel free, please, if you enjoy this content and you would like to support me, please follow me on Twitch if you're watching this on Twitch, or subscribe to my channel on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. Or if you enjoy my content, you can find a lot more animation and short form media on my Instagram. You can find me there under @Sonja Geracsek. And yeah, that's probably it. That's the best way you can support me. And of course, by watching my videos and taking my classes as well. And I thank everyone who's already done that. That means a lot to me, and it keeps me going in what I enjoy. So I will see you next time. Bye!